Relay Radio. I'm your host, Dereck Dreyer. To my right is my co-host, Daniel Hong. We will be lighting the torch of knowledge to bring you exhilarating insights, expert tips, and inspiring stories.
Immerse yourself in the world of business, entrepreneurship, and life as we pass the baton of knowledge, empowering you to sprint towards greatness.
Our guest today, I'm excited for this one, my second teammate that we've had on the podcast. He's seen me at my most vulnerable moments as my locker mate at Texas. As my locker mate at Texas, we built a strong bond. After graduating with a kinesiology and exercise science degree from Texas, he kicked it into another gear, got his doctorate of chiropractic. He now owns his own clinic in Dallas. He is an NCAA All-American sprinter, published author, Mr. Pop It Off. He is Pleasant Valley Shoddy Rockett, Alex Williams.
What's going on, guys?
Is there a reason why they call you Rockett?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you gotta start off with that.
yeah. So Rockett started off as
Wait, Pocket Rocket or Rocket?
Jesus.
just Rockett, just Rockett. No, but Rockett started off as when I was a little league football player. I was the fastest on the team, and at the time, the Cowboys had a receiver named Rockett Ishmael.
Mm-hmm.
And so our coach coined that name for me after that, and it just kind of stuck with me throughout my life, playing sports, football, running track. And then it was, at graduation, when I graduated from chiropractic school, Dad was like, "Oh, I guess we got to call you Dr. Rockett now."
Dr.
So
Rockett,
just kept rolling with me
Two
throughout
T's.
my life.
2 T's, though. Daniel, 2 T's.
Rocket with 2 T's?
All right, so, as you know, it's called Relay Radio. We structure the podcast like a relay. We do a warm-up, and then we go into 4 different legs. So first leg, we'll talk about personal life. Second leg, we'll talk about social media. Third will be business. And then fourth will be like goals and retrospect type stuff. So we can start it off with a little warm-up. The warm-up is a trivia session. So you have 30 seconds to answer some trivia questions.
Oh, God.
The best you can. There is a leaderboard. So if you want to, and JC is I believe, leading the leaderboard right now.
The illustrious one.
Yeah, illustrious. We've got some illustrious men with us again today. All right, you ready?
All right, let's see it.
All right, you got the clock, Daniel.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Okay, so how many muscles are in the body?
Ooh,
Come on, doctor.
I'm gonna lose
The
this.
Rocket.
You said muscles, and
one.
my mind went straight to bone. Let's say 600.
What is the world's highest mountain peak?
No clue on that one. Drawing a blank here.
It's got some hard ones there.
We'll skip that one.
What is a human's largest organism?
The skin.
What question can you never answer yes to?
Did you say time?
Yeah,
You can answer that one.
that's fine.
What question can you never answer yes to?
I don't know.
Bro, Austin give you some hard as fuck ones, bro. How many dots are on a 6-sided die? Like, he's making you do math.
I
in
wouldn't
here
have,
and
I wouldn't
shit.
have gotten any of these.
I think you got skin, and the muscles is 650.
650. Okay.
Damn, bro, what
Mount
kind
Everest.
of doctor are you, bro?
Right?
Yeah, man. 21 was the die question, and then what question can you never answer yes to? Is are you asleep? You sleep?
I was gonna think dead or
sleep?
something. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a tough one, man. All right, so we can start it off here. So we like to just talk about personal life and get to know you. Obviously, Daniel doesn't know you as well as I do, so you kind of started off with your upbringing. I guess we're heavily into sports. Coined the nickname Rockett. Who got you into sports, or what was?
It was one of those things that was just put out there. I was the youngest of 5. I had 2 parents that were both collegiate athletes. By the time I came, I had 3 brothers that were collegiate athletes as well. So it was kind of just like the thing to do, right?
It's like a bloodline type. It's like, What sports did your parents play?
Mom played tennis and softball. Dad played football and track.
Nice.
Yeah.
What and did you grow up in Dallas? And were you originally from
Correct.
Dallas?
Correct. Yeah, we moved to Texas when I was 4. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your upbringing like? Family life.
I was kind of the quiet one, kind of to myself. Like I said, I'm the youngest of 5, so we all kind of did it's kind of cool to look back at it and see how we all turned out so different. But I was kind of the one that I did what I was supposed to do, didn't really get in trouble. I would actually get mad at my brothers when they did things to get in trouble. I was that kid. And so, for me, it was always about like just doing the right thing and, trying to make my parents proud was the biggest thing for me.
So were your brothers kind of crazy then? Like always
I wouldn't say crazy. They were a little more, they explored more, I'd say that. My oldest brother and then a brother right above me. My middle brother and myself, we were kind of the same, straight and narrow, staying out of trouble. But my sister and my brother right above me, they were definitely the two that got in the most trouble.
Yeah. Did all of your siblings go to college and graduate?
Yeah. Yeah. So they all, and we're all over the place, but they all did their, prospective sport in college and graduated as well. Yeah.
Are you the only doctor?
In the immediate family, yeah.
Immediate?
In the immediate
Nice.
family, yeah.
What was the decision to, or what kind of prompted you to get into like health and wellness?
Mm-hmm. So, so long story.
Yeah.
Right?
We got time.
So I guess I would have to start it with my sophomore year in high school. Mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was the first time that in my lifetime I had ever seen either of my parents sick or ill. Fast forward 5 years to my sophomore year at the University of Kentucky. Dad was hit with prostate cancer. And I don't even know if you know this, Dereck, but that's actually what coined or started the process for me of wanting to transfer to the University of Texas. I remember coming back from nationals. It was in Eugene, Oregon that year, and I got a call from Dad, basically congratulating me. They had just seen me on TV for the first time, and basically him telling me, hey, I went to the doc that previous April and was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Of course, they wanted to wait until after the season to tell me. But at this time at Kentucky, I was already in like a depressed state. I was 14 hours away from home. 2 months prior, I had just lost my grandma, which was his mom. And then I had been battling my injuries as well. I had broke my ankle in 7 different places, had torn a hamstring. And so it was just so many things hitting me at once that I wanted to be closer to home. And it wasn't until I transferred to UT, because actually a lot of people don't know this, but when I was at Kentucky, my major was pre-med. I was going to be a dentist.
Okay.
And I chose Kentucky because I did a paper in high school, and at the time, Kentucky was the state with the worst teeth.
I can believe that.
You said I can fill my pockets in Kentucky.
But it wasn't until I transferred to UT that I actually had my first introduction to chiropractic. Prior to that, I didn't even know what chiropractic was. And Dereck, you know this Bob. As well. Dr. Bob was, my first chiropractic doc that I ever went to, seen, knew as a chiropractor.
Our chiropractor, he was like the team chiropractor. Mm-hmm. He's probably like 5'5". Yeah. Like dude was jacked, like looked like a bodybuilder. Yeah, and just like looked like he would break your back, Yep.
But it was just, I remember.
As you can see, Alex is taking that role very seriously. He's trying to mimic the bodybuilding look too.
I tell you what's cool is that this past summer, I actually got a patient referred to me from Dr. Bob.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. It was like a turning circle moment.
Full circle, yeah.
That was pretty cool. But like, just back to your question, just seeing Dr. Bob, I remember going in October. And every October in the NCAA, I don't know if they still do it now, but back then we had to do flu shots. And when I was at Kentucky, the prior 2 years, every time I did a flu shot, I got sick afterwards. And this
with the flu, probably.
Probably. And that was the only time I had ever gotten flu shots in my life. So I
Yeah.
This was new to me
Yeah.
at the time. But the following week when he came back, 'cause of course he would come every Wednesday. The following week he came back and he was like, "Oh, you're not sick." And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't get sick this time." And so he actually, then that was the first time he started breaking down to me like the benefits of how getting a chiropractic adjustment would boost your immune system. And so that coined something in me because I knew, of course, what my parents were going through. I didn't know everything, but I knew the bare minimum. I knew that their immune system was compromised, and him saying immune system being boosted was, that was good terms for me to hear. Yep. And I'll never forget. I remember I came home that Thanksgiving and I was telling my parents about like chiropractic, and of course, again, I'm the youngest of 5, so I'm not expecting anyone to listen to me, but they actually, heard me out and they, started seeking care and seeing them. Seeing their lives change and then seeing me being able to perform on the track without using my ankle brace. I don't even know if you guys saw me running an ankle brace, but prior to UT, I was always running in an ankle brace from when I broke my ankle in 7 different places. And just kind of those shining light moments there, changing my parents' life, changing my life, making me more functional. It's like, okay, wow, how can I get that back to people?
Yeah. I want to jump back a little bit because you mentioned Kentucky. So you played football and track in high school. You were heavily recruited to Kentucky, or what was that process like?
Yeah, so it was actually
obviously you played football and ran track at Kentucky. So
correct. So it was actually it was funny because there was 2 schools I wanted to go to. It was either Minnesota or Kentucky. Don't ask me why. At the time, in my mind, I thought I wanted to leave Texas. And so mom goes, okay, Minnesota's too far. So
and cold. You would have froze.
Which at the time I didn't know, And so it was like, okay, well, let's find something good out of Kentucky. And that's where the whole senior research paper came in play and the whole they have the worst teeth and this is what I want to do if sports don't work out for me. And so it was just kind of like, okay, well, this is where I'll go.
What position did you play?
I was a cornerback and returnman.
Okay.
Yep. Kickoff return specialist and cornerback.
So you went to Kentucky. You played football. Were you starting as a freshman, or
I was not at cornerback, no, but I was a returnman.
How was football different than track for you? Like, dual sport athlete. Like, what were the key takeaways from both of those?
I would say this: football was like you can't hide in track. In football you have on a uniform, and so it brings me back to a conversation I had with my brother. You can like display things. Of course, you still have to have your talent, you still have to have your skill, but you can display things that's not necessarily you. And what I mean by that is I remember there was one playoff game when I was in high school, and I was like, I had just made a pass breakup, and I got up, jumping up and down, and like pointing at the receiver. And after the game, my brother asked me, he's like, what was you saying to him? And he's like, I didn't say anything. Yeah. I was just jumping up and down. Yeah. But it's things like that. Like in track, there's no hiding. You're in your lane. It's kind of like life, right? Yeah. You're in your lane, and that's all you got. What you got is what you give, right?
Yeah, it's like it's more of like an individual sport. And like it basically is what you put in, is what you get out of it.
Yep.
Do you like track more than football?
I was definitely a track runner playing football. Yeah.
So then when you transferred to UT, you only ran track?
Correct.
Okay. And then that's where you met Dereck.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And then so he came in my junior year, I think. So or sophomore.
Yeah, it was junior year. It was both of our junior year.
Yeah, our junior year.
Correct.
And then what was your first impression of Dereck?
He
was he the only white guy on the team?
No.
Oh, that's good.
Not on the team, but
actually,
I was a sprinter.
The first time I met Dereck was at his house party.
You had a house party?
Yeah.
Me and Gerard had a house party.
Yeah.
What?
I think Andre was there too. Were you there, Andre? Unfortunately. We were there, and actually Trevante, him and Andre had made a song in Andre's closet studio.
Oh my God.
And one of our teammates was like, I'm going to play the song. So he put on the song. So That's like Alex's
That
first
was
time
my
meeting
first time meeting
yeah,
any of
everybody.
them. Was
Like-
and I'm sitting behind listening to this conversation of play the song. No, don't play the song.
Yeah,
Play the song.
yeah.
No, don't play the song. And then they play the song, and he's like, "Well, if they play it, don't say it was me. Don't say it was me." And then all I hear is, "Who is this? It's him.
It's Trey. This is Trey. That's funny.
Trey seems like a very unique individual in terms
Yeah.
of like personality. He seems like very artistic.
Oh yeah.
So like obviously acting,
Mhm.
music, like his craft
Yeah,
is
he
like very
definitely-
different.
For
Yeah,
sure,
I
100%.
agree.
Yeah,
I agree
he just
100%.
seems like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So how did you get into track then? Is it something that you just started when you were like very young?
Correct. So mentioned my siblings.
Yeah.
So we had, of course, Texas big summer track. Summer track is a big deal here in Texas. All of my brothers did it, and I think I was like 3 or 4 when my mom started letting my dad take me out there. And of course, I was too young to run. So I was just going out there, and I would just get with the youngest group so that my dad could coach, because my dad was one of the coaches for the team. And I would just get with one of the younger groups and just run with them. You know, it was just kind of like busy work so dad could coach. And it was called Pee Wee's. Our Pee Wee coach was like, "This guy, he's let's let him compete.
fast.
Yeah, let's let him compete." And at that time, I was 4 or 5, but to compete on a higher level, you had to be at least 6 or 7. And so I remember actually beating some of the 6 or 7-year-olds, and a lot of the parents, once I became 6 or 7, wanted like to take my birth certificate and get it tested because
Oh,
like,
yes.
he's been out here for so long. And I had actually broke the 50-meter record in the state of Texas.
Damn.
And so they were like,
For a 6-year-old?
6 or
Fast.
7-year-old.
Damn.
And so they were like, okay, we need to see his birth certificate because he's been out here for
Yeah.
at least 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's like each age group is only 2 years. So
Yeah.
how's he out here on a 3rd year?
Would you run like a 4.5?
I don't even remember the time, to be honest.
3.6?
You can go look it up. It's still the.
Oh, really?
Nah,
I have no clue.
Dude, imagine
Yeah.
running like a 3.7, 3.8 on like you're 6 years old.
fast.
Just fucking
fast.
mini strides, just like just little steps.
Bro, a 3.8 50-meter, you'd be the fastest person. in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Even
sure.
as an adult.
For sure.
Yeah. So then with track, you were in it for 2 years,
Mhm.
and then like we obviously know the competitive perspective, but like what would you say was like your favorite moment in track?
Ooh.
Because like I consider like each sport its own individual like fraternity.
Yeah.
Right. It's like die hard
Mhm.
brotherhood type thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. What was your favorite moment?
That's what just
could be
what,
good.
what you said is actually what our coach told us.
Mhm.
He sat us all down in one of the team meetings. Like, yeah, none of y'all need to join a fraternity because this is your fraternity. Right?
It was actually illegal for a lot of sports
Was
to join the fraternities.
There was a few guys who did join.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certain sports wouldn't allow it. Like I think for us it wasn't football. Football was allowed. I think baseball was not allowed. At U of H when I was at U of H, certain sports wouldn't allow you to join a fraternity, but
Yeah.
each school I guess is individual. But yeah, what are your favorite moments?
Um.
It could be like, I mean, hopefully it's funny, right? Give us like a funny, like,
Oh.
your favorite funny
Yeah, I
moment.
don't know.
Is it you want a favorite moment of performance or favorite dumbass moment of teammates?
I think dumbass would probably be more.
Okay, then yeah,
Ideal.
we would definitely have to go to college for sure. Let me see. There's so many stories there.
It's a whole podcast episode on its own. of
Yeah,
the stories that we
yeah.
could tell. I feel like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just which was actually pretty cool. Also, we were so close as teammates
Mhm.
that we were bound to see something crazy at some
Yeah.
point. And like for me, like I said, being the youngest of 5, I grew into a team.
Mhm.
And so like once I transferred from Kentucky to UT, like molding in with this team was very easy for me.
Mm.
I didn't have that at Kentucky. I was just telling a patient the other day, like when I was at Kentucky, I had friends. When I got to UT, like we were brothers.
Mm.
Like these are guys that I talk to on a daily basis.
Mm.
You know, and
Maybe that's a Southern thing.
possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I feel like Southern
yeah.
people from the South
I don't know.
are very.
Andre's from Missouri though, you know.
Well, he got blended in.
Yeah,
But I
you
feel
know.
like people from the South, they value family,
Yeah.
value like brotherhood.
Yeah.
So they everything it's more like closely knit. I feel
Yeah,
like than a
that's
lot
good-
of other cultures.
Yeah.
Were you just real quick? Were you recruited for track or football for Kentucky?
Track first.
So they recruited you for
Yeah.
track.
It
Okay.
was track first, and then it was kind of an agreement deal.
Oh, like yeah,
if you
can
come
play.
here, we can do both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then like as you kind of I guess like grow up when you're in college and you're running track and you were on TV and stuff like that, like how did that really help you with like the framework of your family, because now you're back to Texas and 2 hours away from your family? Like I guess what was the importance of that? Because you moved back here from Ohio for your dad essentially, or Kentucky, just to be closer to your family. Like what was the importance of that?
I think for me, it was, which at the time I didn't understand or know, but it was linking back to when I was in high school and seeing my mom. My mom's cancer was caught at a late stage, and so it was eye-opening and kind of scary to see the process that she went through. And so once I found out about Dad, which his was caught at an earlier stage, but again at this point, 18, 19 years old. I don't know what any of that stuff means. It was just the thought of, man, he's going to be broken down like Mom was. So at the very least, I can be close to home so that I can at least, get back to home. Because at this point in time, both of their healths were so compromised to the point where my siblings would have to take turns driving to the store for them. And so it was like, well, the least I can do is not be 14 hours away from home, right?
And both of them are still alive?
Correct.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep, actually, they're both alive, and the cool thing, another full circle moment, is I actually get to treat both of them, and they allow me to treat both of them, and so now I get.
Because you're practicing in Dallas.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct, and so that's probably one of the two coolest things that I get to do is treat the people that took care of me and brought me into this world.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, family value is like so important in life. I feel like. Just because your blood doesn't make you family, right?
Right.
Like you can have family outside, and they could be closer than your actual blood family.
Of course.
And I think that from a Southern mentality of like always being there for your family and attributing what they helped you gain through the years of your, your adulthood, your childhood, or whatever, and then kind of like making that full circle to like what you're doing now to be able to help, whether it's treating them or like any way you can help, is like so important. And I feel like this is so underlooked in a lot of ways, where as people are building their career and doing a lot of things in life, it becomes so selfish that they're like, I need to do things for me. Because I hear a lot of people saying that, right? Like when you're growing up, and a lot of times your family can hold you back, right? And then as you grow up and you meet new people, you build new relationships, whether it's business or friendships or whatever that may look like, they kind of like help guide you through your years of like, success, right? Because right now you're probably pretty successful, and you're doing it full circle. So in my opinion, that probably makes things a lot more, how do you say it, worthwhile.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I definitely, can relate in that sense, because everything, I feel like, as you become an adult and your mind is fully developed, you can really take the examples that you've learned in the past and like just translate them to like real life, and how you can help your actual family or friends or whatever that may look like. Yeah, I agree, man. That's awesome. Because what you're doing, I mean, chiropractic work is definitely like in a lot of ways, I think in all the medical field, right? I would consider that the medical field.
Right.
A lot of people just do it for the money. In the beginning, it becomes passion, right? Because you don't go through medical school for fucking money. There's no fucking way. But like as you grow older and your passion remains the same, you're doing it for passion at that point. You're not doing it for money because you've excelled in that point.
Correct.
Money is just a byproduct. But
Agreed.
But I mean, I would say that passion turns into.
yeah, it's a
Well,
byproduct. The money's
it's
a
a
byproduct
byproduct.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you take the same oath as
We do.
doctors do? It's
We
the
do.
same exact.
What's the oath?
We do. Again, going back a few years,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is I would do no harm.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
I
man.
would do
Every doctor is violent.
right? I would do no harm, and negligence are the biggest two.
Yeah.
But just kind of going back to your passion thing, I remember
Yeah.
like a lot of people ask me like, who goes to chiropractic school, right? Because I tell people like chiropractic school is the opposite of med school.
Yeah.
It's easier to get in, but it's harder to stay in. And so our like failure rate, like the amount of people that fail out of chiropractic school is sky high, too high.
I think there's so many levels to, obviously there's different kinds of doctors, but I think there's so many levels to the phrase of a sick patient is a profitable patient, because you hear that so much. What you're doing, I feel like in chiropractic, there's two levels, right? There's people that really need it because they've spent years of negligence. And then the other side, which are people that are actually educated and they're using it for future proofing.
Preventative care.
Yeah, preventative care. And you're really helping these people like, hey, like you should get out of the car this way, because if you do it this way times, 1,500 times, like you're going to be shifting your body, and you're kind of teaching people like what it is that they need to do. I feel like that is more important than like curing someone. Of course, it's equally as important, but like I feel like that's so much more valuable, because like if you, to be honest, like even me, I mean, I have back pain too, like lifting or like just doing things the wrong way, whether it's picking up my kids or whatever. But for someone like you can spot people's irregularities probably just seeing them walk down the street.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
It's like,
Oh yeah.
like there's so many doctors in the medical field that I've seen that just they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care, man. They're just like, give this guy this prescription. I mean, that's normal, right? For like a PCP, if you go to PCP, you're like, I have this.
Yeah.
Antibiotics. But for someone like you, it's like, hey, you should sit this way, or you should do this. Like it's, the prescriptions are different,
Yeah. And part of that is systematic, right?
Okay, that makes sense too.
The
Yeah.
things that we can allow, from the medical field.
Yeah.
The things that they're, told they're supposed to do. And
Yeah.
then also for us, of course, chiropractic comes from a totally different philosophy. as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing as a chiropractor is just being able to help a person body be able to adapt on its own.
For sure. Yeah.
Versus trying to cure something, allowing
Yeah.
the body to, cure itself essentially.
The way I'm sitting right now with my legs crossed, this is bad, right?
Terrible. Hips rotated.
Yeah, hips rotated. That's
I started sleeping on my back because I think we had a conversation we had.
Tell me,
I was like,
man,
Let me
tell
try
me.
this, and like honestly, it helped.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I see a lot of people sitting like this when they're externally rotating their hips.
Yeah.
I think you asked me, you're like, how do you sleep? I was like, oh, on my stomach. He's like, that's the worst thing that you could possibly
Sleep
do.
on your stomach?
It is the
I
worst.
used to. I don't anymore.
What?
Unless you
How
have
do
a
you do
chiropractic
that?
table at home for your bed. It's the
You're
worst.
like rotating
So,
your
so your face is
right,
Wait.
right, exactly.
yeah. You're like your face is in the hole
Yeah,
rather
'cause I
than
used to-
sleeping like this. Jesus.
yeah. And my neck I would always have neck pain because I would sleep the same.
Fuck yeah!
same way, but,
Holy
yeah.
shit, dude.
That's kind of going back to what you were mentioning earlier, is doing something 1,500 times, creates what's called those micro traumas over
Yeah.
time, right?
Because I mean, when I used to go to a chiropractor a lot, once you feel the pain, it's already too late.
Correct.
It's been there for a long time.
Correct.
Just because you don't feel the pain doesn't mean it hasn't been there for a while.
Correct.
Damn. Okay.
Correct.
Reaffirms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pain is typically the last thing to come and the first to go.
Yeah, I feel like I have sciatica, like my fucking hip flexors, my psoas. Yeah, it's bad.
And a lot of us, we get
Damn.
we,
Okay, never mind. I'm not
'cause
sitting like that.
I caught that too. A lot of us,
Gonna be here and talk.
we're so responsive, right? Kind of like how you just caught that because
Yeah.
you're responding to it.
Yeah.
We're so responsive in our care as well.
Yeah.
And so we wait until we're in pain, right? And sometimes,
true.
sometimes those symptoms don't manifest themselves as
Yeah.
pain. I know me and the boys were just talking, and I gave them a quote from my book. Symptomatology reserves the right to express itself whenever, however. And sometimes those symptoms are not pain. It's not pain.
Yeah.
Sometimes a symptom could be something as simple as you're not hungry, or
Yeah.
you're not able to sleep.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
That's a symptom, right? But a lot of us, we've kind of coined ourselves to pain. If there's no pain, then I'm okay.
Yeah,
Or if I look
yeah.
okay in the mirror, then I'm okay.
It's like I would coordinate that to people. Like this is probably one of the biggest scams in the industry. Emergency. I would coordinate that to people are taking emergency when they're already super sick. I'm like, vitamin C doesn't do anything from you when you are sick. That's
Correct.
a preventative measure you should be taking.
beforehand.
But the
correct.
industry has created it to be that norm where you take vitamin C when you're sick.
And I think a lot of that has to do with.
You just wanted him to confirm that for you?
Yeah, dude.
And I think a lot of that has to do with like the business and marketing side, right?
100%.
Being able to make something tangible,
That's
right?
everything.
Like how can you make being well tangible if it's solely based on function?
It's a
right?
capitalist economy, right? It's fucking it's all about like profitability.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with that too.
That's like, I mean, yeah, and it's just like you said, it's just the marketing of misinformation, so to speak,
the
and
name of it's emergency. That's pretty
it's
fucking solid. Yeah. It's pretty solid.
all marketing, all social media type stuff.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel like? Because we obviously didn't have social media in college, or is like kind of like starting.
Just starting. Yeah.
How do you feel like it would have went for us if we had social media?
I'm gonna say y'all probably be doing dances and shit on TikTok. Like all of y'all just fucking.
You should see that what the Texas
You know
Texas
what?
football team is posting on TikTok now.
Oh yeah, it's probably stupid, but
You know what? It's funny that you say that. I wish we would have had NILs back then.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that would have been nice. I know like some former athletes are against NILs because we didn't have it back then.
yeah.
Like if we had NILs back then, I probably would have still been in college today trying to join different sporting teams. Like I would have been on a rowing team or something.
Yeah.
I would have figured out
Using
a
up
way.
all of your eligibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because we were so afraid to even like, because there's been times where a lot of us were approached for like private coaching and stuff.
Right.
And we were just so afraid to even consider that type of stuff because we didn't want to like affect our eligibility.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed the game a lot
Yeah.
for sure. And I don't know about, I guess, obviously social media wasn't as big. So like there probably wouldn't have been as many of those NIL type deals for us.
Yeah.
Obviously track is a lot less of a renowned sport than football was, but I still think we would have been posting some dumbass shit though.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
What'd you run in track?
Short sprinter, 100, 200, relays, indoors, 60.
You were 100
I was like mid distance, so like 200, 400.
sprinting that
Yeah, it's a sprint. Yeah.
60. So what is 400 meters like 1,500 feet?
What?
400 meters.
I don't know the feet conversion. I just know it's a one lap.
Like 1,500 feet or something.
I was a science guy.
That's pretty far.
I've never heard anybody try to convert it to feet.
How many
How many
how lo-
seconds?
how long did it take you to run 400 meters?
My fastest open was a 47.3. My fastest split was a 46.7.
Do the math.
pretty
Just so you know,
Is that pretty
everybody,
fast?
That's pretty fast.
everybody now,
That's faster
everybody
than me
now
by
is
a
running
lot.
45 seconds.
45 seconds divided by
We
1,500.
used to be mad at Alex because like coach would be like, "All right,
It's
hey,
like a
Alex."
foot every 3 seconds. That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Alex was like, coach would be like, "Alex, all right, you got blocks.
Oh, yeah.
You got
What's
stride."
So
stride
I was
on the
I was
grass."
one of those people. The longer you asked me to run, the worse I got at it. So we had to.
Did y'all get haze?
No, there was no haze.
Yeah.
Nah, we
didn't
didn't
get
do
Yeah, there was no haze.
even when I was a
Elephant
freshman,
walks or
man.
some shit like that.
What?
You know what an elephant walk is?
Yeah, actually, so funny. So
It was more so the coaches punishing us was more
Yeah.
what happened.
I
Not
guess that's hazing. That's
Yeah.
I guess a form. Yeah. Yeah, we won't go down elephant.
Yeah, Alex
walk.
would be like
It's like some
have like
fraternity
strides on the grass and shit, and then be like, "All right, Derek, you got 500s." Fuck you, Alex.
yeah, their practices were definitely.
Our shit was hard,
much,
man.
Much more hard.
Yeah, that's like 8,000 feet.
Why you converting it to feet, bro?
Wait, is meters part of the metric system?
It is.
Fuck. Okay. Well, I use feet more than like
Yards. It would be yards for the imperial system.
Yeah.
imperial system.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
for the U.S. it would be yards.
Yeah, so it's 3 feet. 1 yard is 3 feet. Did you say 3 feet or 3 foot? 3 feet. Okay, 3 feet.
440 was
440
yeah.
yards, yeah.
400 was 440 yards. Yeah,
440 yards, so 12.
and like 100 meter was 100 and
1,320 feet. Wow, that's far. 1,320 feet. Okay.
It's funny because as he's saying that, I'm just like picturing someone like doing relay mark-offs.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
1 foot at a time.
fucking yard markers.
So with social media, it is pretty interesting because what year did y'all graduate?
2012.
Okay, me
We
too.
had- we had
I graduated in
Facebook.
2013.
We had Facebook, and in the intro, I said Pleasant Valley Shoddy Rocket because
yeah.
that was whenever I friend
was my
requested
name.
Alex. That was his
Yeah.
Facebook name.
But like,
I have no idea why.
Me neither.
I think I think times would not have been as fun if we were in college while social media is what it is today. Because I truly believe like we valued more face-to-face interactions and not recording things more than today. Because like, I mean, I remember all of my like stupid fraternity moments in college and stuff like that. Like, I feel like it wouldn't have been as funny if we were to film it all. It would be cool to watch back on because, but like you're never really in the moment. When you're in the moment, you're not like, oh, let me record this.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes like modern society today is so caught up on like filming everything. Like, I mean, kind of like what we're doing now, but like I catch myself doing that all the time, like with my kids. Sometimes you want to be like in the moment, but sometimes you're like, what if I want to watch back on it 5 years from now or something,
Right.
So there's like,
There's
I
a
mean,
giving.
it's like some trade-offs,
The photo you posted of Grayson crying is
That was fucking hilarious. Jess was like, why would you do him like that? I was like, he doesn't fucking know.
Why would you do him like
I think I got like 50 replies on that. It's kind of funny.
that? Was funny.
But yeah, like with social media, like how are you really applying that? Are you active on social media today?
Yeah. And that's actually, it's one of our, especially when we first started, that was like one of our, main marketers outside of word of mouth.
Right.
And it was so different because, before I opened up my own clinics, I was an associate doc. And this doc, this opportunity that I had working with him was a blessing, but he was old school. And so there was no, phones out on the floor. There was no recording. We didn't record adjustments. He's seen it as kind of like giving away the product. And, for me, it was kind of like, okay, well, how do we bring people to us? How do we, because as a chiropractor, I mean, let's be honest, as business owners, our goal is to get in front of people, right? And it's like, well, how can we bring that to us to where we're still in front of them, even if they're not in home? And I thought one of the cool things that we did was we turned that into, okay, not only are we in front of you, camera-wise, but we're also operating in a gym as well. It's like you're already here because you want to, or hopefully because you want to be healthier.
Yeah.
Allow us to help you take it just one step further, right? To be more convenient as well, versus just in front of you. Now it's conveniency,
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably go to the chiropractor a lot more if it was at the gym or in a convenient location. So
There's some funny ass. So it started with like a lot of these chiropractors like on TikTok where they're like cracking people.
Yeah.
And now it like
cracking the skeleton,
now-
cracking the bag of
Oh, I
chips.
love it.
Yeah,
and,
but
like,
then
yeah,
now
we're always sending that
now
shit
I
out.
see. I mean, this is kind of funny. It's kind of like out of pocket, but like now I see people like chiropractors. I don't know if it's like scripted, but like there's now chiropractors like doing it for like half naked girls, and it's like sex sells type of mentality, right?
Really?
Yeah, dude. It's like
Bro, don't. Daniel's TikTok is a different TikTok. His
no, it's not that. I promise.
His algorithm.
I promise it's not. Look,
Really?
but like because I think I don't know what's his name. I think Dr. Cracks went viral for like filming it. I have a friend that's a viral TikToker from chiropractic. He's Dr. Tubio, Tubio. He like it's like that one where you pull on the neck.
The Y strap.
Yeah, the wide strap, the Y strap and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, are you doing that stuff too?
Well, I do use the Y strap. Very rarely do I record the Y strap, and typically I only use it for if a patient has already used it before. Or
I almost did
it's
this
like
when I was
fixing itself. Typically, I'll only use it if a patient is like super decompressed, or if they've had it before and that was the only thing that they saw results from.
So, like on social media right now, what are you typically showing?
Typically, it's your standard adjustments we call diversified technique or Gonstead technique. A lot of what we show is not just the adjustments as well. It's also soft tissue mobilization.
Oh, you do that too?
Correct.
Damn, nice.
Corrective
Can
exercise.
I pay you for a session right now?
You got a table?
Set it up, right?
Okay, I'll lay it on the floor.
But I think the things that we try to post on social media outside of the adjustments are things that people can take home with them, because that's what's going to ultimately help them as well, right? I try to tell my patients, like, you're going to be away from me a lot more than you're going to be with me.
Yeah.
So if you can do the things to correct yourself away from me, that's only going to make both of our jobs easier as well.
Yeah, that's so important, like, especially in the fitness field. I would consider this a hybrid. It's like a fitness and medical at the same time.
Agreed.
Like, a lot of these fitness coaches, personal trainers, let's just say personal trainers that are in these commercial gyms, you really just see their clients like they look the same for the 5 years that or 10 years that they're even with them.
Correct.
And I think that's so important when you talk about like the home preventative care, because like that's 80 or 90% of the work with that they're, because like at personal training, you're just training them an hour a day for maybe 3 times a week, but there's 23 other hours and another 48 hours that they're not even there too.
Right.
And people are like, yeah, they're working out, but then like they're eating like shit versus exactly what you're doing. Like you help them for the 15, 20 minutes, and then everything else is like they're sitting like this again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
creating those habits.
I think
I think that's the biggest key. Once we can tap into as a team being the doc and the patient, once we can tap into breaking those habits enough times to where we form new habits, that's when you start to see the corrections made. It's like there's a reason why they say it takes 21 days to break a habit, right? It's because you have to do it over and over again, on a daily basis for your body to become accustomed to. And so, like, just going back to sitting or sleeping, I'll hear people say, well, laying on my back and going to sleep on my back is uncomfortable. It's like, well, your body adapts to your comfort level, right? And so if you're used to sleeping on your stomach with your neck turned all the time, of course, laying on your back the first day or the second day is not going to be comfortable to you because your body is already adapted to the wrong way of doing things.
Yeah. Our friend, his name is Vinny. Vinny
I think the
Vin
mild
Fam.
detox.
Oh,
He-
Canada or
Toronto.
Yeah.
He that's what I feel like blew him up too, because he was very, it would be considered unorthodox, but it's the true way of actual preventative care of like the movement and the fluidity of the body versus what a lot of people were doing, chiropractor wise, right? Because I feel like maybe 3 years ago it wasn't as popular to show people getting cracked, and then he was like coming on social media and telling people like move like this or move like that, or he put like a piece of ramp on your, or your ankle or whatever.
Wedges.
The wedges, to where it caused it to be flat. Yeah, those are the types of moments that like I feel like those are the good doctors.
Yeah,
what are your views on like the ways chiropractic social media is? Are you in tune with that or no?
I would say I guess what do you mean, like in the generic?
Like, what are some common like misconceptions that you're like, some misinformation that some chiropractors are you seeing on social media that you're like, man, I wish they wouldn't be saying something like that?
I think the biggest ones will be probably the explanations of the cracks, right? Because I'll have people who've had other chiros come in to me and say, I just want my bones cracked. And it's like, wait, you're a chiropractic patient? It's like, yeah, I've been seeing a chiro for 3 years now, and you still think that sound that you're hearing is your bones actually cracking? Like, it's
just air pockets, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not your actual bones being cracked, or at least it shouldn't be. If your bones are actually being cracked,
that would.
Is it a myth that if you crack your knuckles every day that you'll get arthritis?
that is a myth. But there's some.
I pull them out.
So there's some
straighten 'em.
there's some truth to that. The truth is going to be there's a correct way to adjust any joint, and you want to adjust it in a way that it should go. So if you're adjusting your knuckles in a flex position, you're perfectly fine. If you're adjusting your knuckles in an extension position where you're elongating your fingers, kind of like what you just showed me, then that's going to be the incorrect way, because that's
I shouldn't be pulling them.
So you should be
correct.
You pop it.
Fuck me.
So if you're making a fist, for our listeners, if you're making a fist and popping your knuckles, you're doing perfectly fine.
Damn, I would have thought that when you're popping it, you're like misaligning it.
Well, you have to remember,
depending on the direction that you're popping it.
You have to remember every joint has a function, right? And that joint function is for your fingers to come in a flex position versus extension.
I feel like when I went to the chiropractor, that's the way they're popping me. They're like,
so
even my toes.
Yeah, so if they're doing that adjustment, they're popping what's called your dip and your pip. So you're further to joints in your finger. They're not down at the MCPs.
So when I'm doing this, I'm extending my finger. That's bad?
Yeah, you're going too far.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, so I should just pop like this.
There you go. If you're going for your MCPs, if you're going for your distal joints, then you can do that by pulling.
So yeah. Like that doesn't really elongate it, bro. So what is that your end goal? It's not.
I don't know.
It's not making it longer.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm constantly doing
because you have to remember why is it important to get adjusted? Why do we want joints to get adjusted? Is it because they're out of? I guess that's another misconception. What out of alignment or misalignment means?
Yeah.
Because I've had people come to me and say, "Can you put this back in place?" And it's like, well, it's not dislocated, right? There's a term that I think confuses people because you have two separate definitions, and it's called subluxation. In its root of itself, it just means less than dislocation, but you have a medical terminology behind it, and then you have a chiropractic terminology behind it. And so the medical terminology would be just what I said, less than dislocated. The chiropractic philosophy for that term is different in the sense that it just means your joint's not moving like it's supposed to.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so that could mean it's not moving at all, or it could mean it's not moving in its full range of motion like it's supposed to, or it could mean it's not moving in grouping with the other joints or the surrounding structures.
Okay. Yeah, so like, do you follow do you see a lot of TikTokers that are like chiropractors?
I see some.
And then do you like criticize their work?
Some
like
of
just
them.
Mentally, like, damn, that guy's stupid.
Well,
yeah.
I guess you have to take your hats off. As a business owner, I get what they're trying to do, but then as a doc, it's like, it's probably a better way to do that, right?
Or explain. So your biggest qualm is like the explanations that they're giving. They're not, or you feel like they're not really properly educating reasoning behind some of this stuff.
Well, hopefully they are behind cameras, right? Well, when the cameras are put up, hopefully they're educating their patients. But I do wish there was some bit of explanation to the viewers, to the layman's person, because most people are not going to understand what's happening in the video. They just see someone getting cracked, right? Yeah. You could show someone a video of a person being adjusted, and then you can put up one of those funny videos where they have like the doors breaking, and you're going to get the
Those are funny as hell.
You're going to get the same response from it, right?
Those are hilarious.
And it's like, that's fine, use that. But how do you make that educational for the person? That's more of what I'm behind. Is like, what is the take home here?
Yeah, so you're
entertainment versus education.
Yeah,
having a balance.
Like
I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind the educational piece behind it. Like I said, I post some of those funny videos. I just posted one with the skeleton being torn apart.
So you're more focused on like the value driven proposition,
right?
Essentially, because like the more value you provide someone, I feel like the higher ticket you can essentially achieve in terms of sell.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that you guys do a lot more of the soft tissue work. Like, what is the reasoning that a lot more chiropractors don't have that kind of focus and they just only do adjustments and that type of stuff?
It goes back to schooling. In school, we learned that there's two different types of chiropractors. You have traditional, which is your guys that only adjust, and then you have what's called not non-traditional, which are the people who also focus on soft tissue as well. I tell my patients there's no right or wrong. It's just a difference of philosophy. We work on soft tissue as well because we like to work on the body as a whole, and our goal is to increase function as a whole.
Yeah.
You can't increase function without increasing the whole unit.
Yeah, correct.
It goes hand in hand.
And that's why for the longest time I always believed. I mean, I wouldn't say to the extreme, but I always believe a lot of chiropractors are just like scamming people because they make it almost a crutch. So instead of like teaching them, whether it's through their social media or like just in person, like, hey, like, just so you know, just because I'm adjusting you today, it doesn't mean you're not going to feel the pain in the next 6 hours, because they're not strengthening their body. They're just like relying on this person. Like that like wow effect that you see in the
we had that conversation about like the chiropractors that literally just see like fucking 60 patients an hour, like they're just going around just pop.
And the thing to that, going back to the business model is, some people benefit from that solely or only, not just their bodies health wise, but also because that's all the time they have.
Yeah.
And so if you're someone who you have, I don't know, 6 kids at home and you work, 45 hours a week, 5-minute adjustment may be all you have to give, and I would still say that's better than nothing at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is a bit of, like anything that comes with convenience, there's a bit of a drop off as well. Health wise, if you've never been adjusted before, you probably need more than just a 5-hour or 5-minute.
Yeah, most
adjustment.
definitely. Yeah.
Or if you've been, sitting at a computer for 45 hours a week, you probably need more than just, a 5-minute adjustment.
Yeah.
But all of that breaks down into your evaluation. We're all different. There's some people that, are the LeBrons of the world, and then there's the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
So
you spoke on business model. Your guys' business model, like you just mentioned, is like the full body
Correct.
approach. Whenever you graduated, what kind of made you want to start your own clinic, or what is the typical route for a chiropractor? Is it usually you go work for somebody or do you just go straight into kind of owning your own?
I would say it's probably about 50-50, which is probably a problem. In my opinion, that's probably more of a problem than it is of benefits. But I would say a lot of us did go straight from school to opening our own, and then some of us worked as associates first. The reason why I say it's a problem is because we do a terrible job as a profession of teaching us how to run a business. And so unless you have some type of business background prior to going to chiropractic school, you're going to be very green. And when you get out there, you could be the best doc, you could be the best adjuster, you could be the best evaluator, you could be the best diagnostic tool out there. But if people are not in front of you, none of that matters.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I about like old school education. Like you're learning business classes from people who don't own businesses. How is that even like, why, if I'm studying kinesiology, why do I need to learn about statistics?
Right.
It's just, there's so many different levels, and that's the, I feel like, in the bad part about being a doctor, where like a lot of doctors, they're in so much debt coming out, all they care about is their salary, and that's where I feel like that changes their passion. It's more so driven of, I need to pay off my loans.
Right.
Fuck that. So then you have this maybe doctor that's like, I'm gonna only do 5-minute sessions.
I'm gonna see 60 people in.
Yeah, because I mean,
Pump out the cash.
yeah, I mean, 60 people, 5-minute sessions. If you're making $100, like you're making $6,000 a day.
So did you go the associate route first before opening your clinic, or what was your process or path?
So my route, I did go the associate route, and I mentioned earlier how much of a blessing that was for me to go through that. A lot of associate positions aren't good. I was blessed with the opportunity of having a really good associateship that kind of, steered me in the right way, or steered me in the right path.
Yeah.
I also was someone who had a little bit of a business background before going into chiropractic school.
Is that from your family?
No, so prior to chiropractic school, I was the regional fitness director for Gold's Gym.
Oh, nice.
And at that time, when I got in with Gold's, I had no business knowledge. I didn't know what sales was. I thought sales was the scary thing that people got done to them at the car dealership, right?
Yeah.
I had no philosophy or understanding of what it meant.
Yeah.
But also, being able to manage people, I had no, knowledge on that either until I had that position. And so kind of maneuvering to where I am now, I actually see myself using some of the same systems that I was taught back then. And I mean, you guys probably use some of those same systems as well, because those successful systems don't change regardless of what industry you're in.
Yeah, you're right. So, go ahead.
I was gonna ask. So when you were at your associateship, say that right?
Close enough.
Did he kind of guide you on like the business practice behind chiropractic?
So he did.
You kind of learned something from there too.
My first associateship, we signed an agreement that within 2 years, we were going to open up a second location, and I would run that location and buy it out from him. And so along that way, not only did he teach me, but he put me in with his mentors who also guided me in the sense of, I was you knew me at UT. I was one that didn't really like to talk. I was super introverted. And so the first thing that he's now my mentor as well. One of the first things that Dr. Lloyd did was he started making me open up for him at seminars. And then he basically taught me how to create, these different health talks on my own, to the point where then I had to start running my own health talks. And number one, it put me in front of people. Number two, it got me out of that introverted bubble. But then also it taught me like how to not necessarily stand firm, but how to hold ground in front of people when you're running a business, right?
Yeah.
Because even though, I'm standing in front of patients or potential patients, they have to understand that we're in this together. There's nothing that we can accomplish if they're not on board with me, or if I'm not on board with them.
Yeah, you're not a magician.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I think it was those type of deals of, having which I hate meetings. Everyone know I hate meetings, but it was those type of deals of having meetings every, Tuesday or every Thursday, flying me out to Seattle to, do different things here and there, where it was like it kind of built that ownership mentality.
Yeah. Like everything's such a chain reaction. I mean, I don't want to say this, but like if your dad never got prostate cancer, you would have stayed in Kentucky, thus never going to UT, thus never becoming a chiropractor. So it is crazy, and then thus never meeting your life mentor. So you'd probably be in a completely different track in life.
Agreed.
And you probably obviously wouldn't be sitting here.
He'd be fixing those nasty Kentucky teeth, bro.
Oh yeah, dentistry.
Well, and here's the thing about that. Like, of course, when I made that decision, I was 17, 18, so I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
But like going through chiropractic school, we work on cadavers. And one of the first things I learned about myself is I do not like, number one, I don't like bodies. Number two, I don't like the things that come out of bodies.
Yeah.
Orifices.
And so it was like, how are you going to work in someone's mouth and you can't even get over this smell? Like,
yeah, because some people got some dirty.
So do you feel like there's a gap in the industry right now for like that business educational piece with, I guess, honestly, the medical industry as a whole, but more specifically the chiropractic industry?
Well, I think it is. There's a gap, but I think more importantly, the reason why that gap is there is because of the kind of like what Daniel was talking about before, being able to, how is this going to help me pay off my loans? How is this going to help me run a business? Because there is a give and take. And when you're going through like that associateship, you're not going to be getting paid the best. So if your sole purpose is to pay off your student loans, you kind of have to have that down the road mentality, kind of the long-term mentality, in order to push through it, because as an associateship, the money is not the best. So if your sole purpose and passion is to, make $3 billion and pay off your student loans as soon as possible, then you probably will force yourself to go the business owner route fresh out of school, regardless if you have any background in business or not. And I think I've even seen, some of my classmates who are no longer practicing, they're doing other things. And it's solely because they didn't have that business background, and so they didn't make it. Well, when they didn't make it, they had to move to something to pay off those student loans.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, there's no way I'm going to school for 7+ years and I'm not going to
practice it. Yeah,
100%.
We're gonna figure this thing out.
So in your business, right, you have your own practice in Dallas.
Correct.
How many employees do you have?
There's 4 of us.
There's 4 of you. And how do you normally go about like the hiring process?
So remember I was talking about how I use some of the same systems.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So out of the 4, it includes you?
Correct.
And then how many doctors are there, including you?
2 docs.
So it's you and then another.
Correct.
And how did you go about finding this doctor?
So that one was actually more of what I call a kairos moment, meaning a godly moment. It was something. So he's a guy that I actually went to chiropractic school together. We started together. We finished together.
Nice.
He was my, brother in chiro. Like
Nice.
we studied together. We worked out together. Like I said, we graduated together, and it was one of those things where he was when we decided to come together, he was in a place where he didn't have a good associateship. And I think it was like 2 or 3 different clinics that he was at, and he didn't have a good background. And so he wanted to own his own business because he was tired of being pretty much manipulated. And so when we got together, it was actually a conversation between him and my mom. And of course, seeing how things line up, being the youngest of 5, I was one of those ones that said, "Mom knows best," right? And so when I heard, Mom said we should do this, it's like, okay, well, let's make it work. Let's see how we can make this happen. And I mean, here we are now, 4 years later, making it happen.
And then, do you have plans to like bring on other chiropractors?
We do. So we've expanded now to we have 3 locations.
Oh wow,
And,
nice. All in Dallas.
Well, one in Dallas, Plano, Allen. So all in the DFW area. Yeah. But we're not. I'm always looking for ways to grow, and so a part of that, of course, we gotta add to the team.
Yeah.
One of my ultimate goals is to get to a point where I can get back to being able to travel and give those health talks. And the only way that I can step away and do that is if I know, we have a team that can still take care of the patients or perform for the patients as well, I like to say.
So like you're setting up your business essentially to be like not fully running off of you.
Correct.
Just like kind of how you're doing right now.
What we're also doing too, right now we're putting in the legwork, but eventually we want to like hire a CEO and step out, and then they run the business for us. So
like
essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
But
now
with
that
chiropractic.
Yeah. So now that you're here today, like all your 3 locations are still up and running. Like you don't need to be there.
Correct.
That's awesome.
Are they all? That's all Ignite Health and Wellness.
So it's 2 forms. You have Ignite, which is more of the wellness side of things, and then you have Be Well Chiropractic, which that's the personal injury side of things.
Nice.
And Be Well was birthed first. The personal injury was birthed first, and then Ignite came about a year later.
Is Be Well the one from your associateship, or did you end up opening that location and doing that?
We didn't. Long story short. To make a long story short, things happened or things transpired for that owner, and he wasn't able to open up another location. Gotcha. So there was kind of a breach in contract, but we also had an agreement as well.
Yeah.
And so part of that agreement was, if we don't do this, then he'll buy me out of the agreement, and I'll move on and do my own thing. And so that's essentially what happened. So it was fortunate for me because that buyout allowed me to, pay for things. But to answer your question, no.
Okay, gotcha. So it's Be Well and then Ignite.
Mm-hmm.
So like in business, like your brother, who you consider him your brother in chiropractic school, he is, working under Ignite or Be Well. How hard is it for you to separate y'all's relationship, like inside and outside of business? Like you could be like having a debate with him or disagreement with him in business, and then like the next thing you're like, hey, let's go out to dinner. Like, how hard is that for you?
It's not hard. But I also think that's because, again, going back to my Gold's Gym days, we had a president who I was really close with.
Nice.
And, just working under him and working alongside with him, we were super close. We were from the same area, so that added to, he was kind of like a big brother to me. And so the way I look at, this Dr. Mathis is kind of like I'm that big brother for him. He's younger than me. We're not from the same place, but we grew up under similar standings.
Is he your business partner, or you solely own like all 3 of them?
Oh no, yeah, he's business partner for Ignite.
Okay, but Be Well is just all you.
Correct.
Nice, man. That's awesome.
Correct.
So the question you just asked him about the separation, what's your answer to that? How hard is it for you to separate it?
I would agree with you. It's not hard because as long as it was hard, right? But I think if you find the right partner, it is not.
There you go.
Like
There you go.
for me, like all the businesses that I've owned except maybe one, I've always had business partners. But I always try to focus on finding the business partners that are complementary to my weaknesses. So they just like, it's like a yin and yang situation. Right. For me, I think that's always what I've been good at too. I feel like that's a responsibility thing too, of like, I'm not a person that holds grudges. I let things go very easily. I just give people the benefit of the doubt, and then just kind of like, it's business. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that term, it's business, sounds really shady because a lot of people would justify that by saying, oh, it's just business. Well, and they fuck people over,
Yeah, and I think to add to your point,
personality thing too.
It becomes easier for personalities who are geared towards like being a team. Like
Yeah,
teammates,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because essentially that's how we approach it. We're a team.
yeah,
That was, our background as past athletes. We were built or team.
yeah.
We
That's
build that
important.
camaraderie. We build that cohesiveness.
Yeah.
Is there any other big C words that I can throw in
Yeah,
here
camaraderie.
to match up with JC, right? But no, seriously, that's I think that has a lot to do with it as well. Because like for myself, I mentioned like with my brothers that we were a team. I
Yeah.
remember as a kid, when they went outside, I wanted to go outside and be on their team. You
Yeah.
know, when I got to UT, I wanted to be a part of the team. And it kind of grooms something in you, and it grows from there. And I think that's one of the things that we don't necessarily think about when we talk about sports. We talk about what happens on the field, but we don't necessarily talk about the things that are developed within a person to help build one's character. That happens inwardly, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like there's two types of people in business that also pertains to sports, right? Whatever they do in sports is how they'll do kind of everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you the type of person or business partner that you care more about your business partner's vision and then you would complement that? Or is it the other way around for you? Like, this is your vision, like, you want to run with it.
I think there has to be some type of alignment too, though.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's got to be
alignment, and then there's
cohesive.
also, I feel like, some type of like compromise in some situations as well.
Well, yeah. Well, in my experience, or my I guess what we're going through, it's easier in a sense because our vision aligns.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how do we get there, the processes that it's going to take to fulfill that vision. Now, I think the cool thing for us is our vision for ourselves and our business is not the same, though. Like the position that I would like to have of, getting in front of people, traveling and helping people, just learn about health more. Learn what true health is different from his vision of wanting to bring more of a spiritual health to everyone as well.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I like that. So then, because everybody's different, right? They have different outtakes for the business, and that's what makes the business successful. Because I feel like if you two had the exact same vision for the business, it wouldn't be successful, because like there's got to be like avenues of vision of like expansion. So I like what you just said about like the self-education aspect of you're constantly educating yourself outside of what you've been taught, because a lot of doctors like they'll only apply what they've been taught in school, and that's what makes them like dated or like I like that. So like you wrote a book and you published it. Like what is that book about?
So basically the goal of the book, A Functional Approach to Health,
Okay.
is to teach the patient how to be the perfect patient. And the idea started during COVID, of course. That's when all the great ideas were started.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And I remember I was leaving the clinic one day, and at this point, I was early on in the shutdown. I was looking at this as an opportunity for us as a country to better our health.
1000%.
And I remember as I was leaving home or leaving the clinic, things are shut down around me. Of course, we were still open, but everything else is shut down, and I'm driving home. And I passed by a McDonald's, and the line was like wrapped around.
Damn.
And I was like, this is disappointing.
Yeah.
This is the exact opposite of what I was hoping this process would teach us. Of course, it made most of us more health conscious, but it didn't correlate how our everyday life can be changed based on the decisions that we make every day. And what I wanted to do from a chiropractic perspective is give people an avenue of how can you check yourself at home? How can you, because again, we live in a world where we base our health on how we look and how we feel, and neither one of those have a direct bearing on how healthy we are, right? Like the cancer patient felt good before he walked in the door and was told he had cancer, or the patient with diabetes felt good 2 weeks before walking in saying that they was having, diabetic problem.
Yeah, that's also a misconception in fitness too.
Mm-hmm.
The walking billboard
Oh, yeah,
mentality.
yeah.
Like you have abs, you're
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 but
healthy.
like,
Yeah.
but a lot of people who have abs have eating disorders.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
It just shows you that the focus isn't really on the preventative
Mhm.
care aspect, and I think that's what you're trying to get at. Is like,
correct.
so with your book, like, where do people buy? Is it on Amazon?
It is. It's on Amazon, or they can directly reach out
Yeah.
to me.
Did that do well? The book?
It is. It is.
Nice.
It did.
Awesome.
Actually,
Amazing.
we're working on phase 2. Is how well.
Cool.
It did. And so that's pretty cool actually, because I never
Yeah.
saw myself as a published author.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't even read books, so for you to write a book is very phenomenal.
after he's like, I like the continuing education piece of like learning outside.
For me, education has always been about real life experiences. Like, I pertain it to like meeting people in life. The mentor thing is, I think, is so big because your mentor is not a paid mentor. It's always just a person that stumbles upon in you in life who granted you many blessings. He taught you public speaking.
correct.
That's a trait that you can never learn from any book.
Correct.
You can read about it, but not everybody can apply, especially if you're an introvert. You know?
Right.
So he just like threw you into the pool. I've always found education to be like not just a mentor, but also like friends along the way. Like Ashley and Dereck have taught me to become like a better leader. Like I've always been a business owner, but I've always been type A. Like I want to do it myself. If it's got to be done right, I'll do it myself. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But like along the way, things really just mold you to just be a better person.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing like how like not everybody's meant to be a business owner.
Correct.
But I think it's so amazing that like if you're not a business owner, you're missing out on so much in life. Because like being in business is probably the biggest education piece you can ever come across in life.
I feel like it gives you a different perspective on the world and how the world works. Because you really start to realize like, this is why this business is doing this, and this is why this is happening, or this is why they're advertising this, or this is, so it's like, for me, it's given me a different perspective.
Yeah, because like in if you work a 9 to 5, not that that's a bad thing, that's a great thing, because my wife loves her corporate job. She's not meant to own a business, but like if you're in a 9 to 5, the only bad thing that happens to you if you get fucked over is you get fired. That's it.
Yeah.
But in the world of business, you can get fucked over from many million positions.
Yeah.
Like it is wild. Like
Yeah.
lawsuits and people stealing from you, or people just like fucking burning your business down. I mean, there's so many avenues, with business, like you have 2 businesses right now, right?
Correct.
So Ignite Be Well, but then also the author. Is there anything else?
Just sticking with those 2.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty vertically integrated.
Right.
Right.
And it, being in the health realm, right? That's where my passion is.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
And with your first book, like you pretty much laid all of your knowledge into that first book, but like with the second volume that you're working on, where did you get this additional knowledge?
So actually from my story, which this was supposed to be the first. The first book was supposed to be my background and how I got into chiropractic.
Okay.
But then it was just too apparent of the need for, okay, how do we teach? I remember I was reading actually one of my mentor's books, and he was talking about this. He's been in practice for 40 plus years, but he was talking about how in the 1950s, doctors used to go around and educate people as part of their continuing education. Now we just sit for a course, and people don't really get educated when it comes to health specifically. And I remember reading his book about that and saying, how can I do that? Like, how can I get back to that? And that's kind of where the vision of wanting to travel around and give health talks and even the books came from. And so I kind of shifted how I wanted to start the run with my books to first, okay, let's teach how to be the perfect patient. And then let's give a background of where I came from and how I got into chiropractic to, okay, now, phase 3, what do we do with this information? Now, the ultimate goal is always read, apply, and then help someone else with the information.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are now. We're working on phase 2, which is my story. And then phase 3 will be, okay, how do we apply these things now?
Yeah.
Are the health talks like, so you said you don't have any ambitions outside of your clinic and then the books.
Mm-hmm.
How does the health talks align? Like, are you wanting to do conferences for that? Like, is it from your book, or just like, is that a separate thing on its own? Like, how do those align?
The conferences itself, even though the last, or I guess second to last conference we did was solely based on the book, the conferences itself is just, how do we make a healthy America? I'm a big believer in one of Zig Ziglar's favorite quotes is, you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And it's like, what's more lucrative than health in today's society, right? And so the conferences or seminars they're geared towards health, and typically I like to let the audience choose the topics, and we go in on. But sometimes, of course, I do direct them as well, as far as this is what's important today. Which
are these conferences you're just kind of joining as a speaker, or how does that kind of okay?
Yeah. You spoke about COVID, and it really should have, and I feel like it did help a lot of people gain clarity on like health, physical health, mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like COVID also like shaped and filtered out the people in the world who truly were about helping people versus profitability or profiteering.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild, like what you're talking about of like, and it also brewed a lot of, I feel like, newer aged individuals to actually motivate them to help people. With your books right now, and with the knowledge you've gained in like business and like the books you're reading, like who do you look to in the past like 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone new for like business or like even chiropractic? Or is it all like from the past?
I would say past 3 years they wouldn't be new. These would be people that I've known for 5-6 years plus.
Yeah.
But these are also people who I've come to coming to knowing them. I've also seen that they have kind of that same, for lack of a better term, evangelistic part to them as well.
Yeah.
My main mentor, Dr. Lloyd, for example, he has 17 clinics. He's written 20 books. Like I say, he's been practicing for 40 plus years.
Maybe I'll write a book one day.
And so it's not too many things that I could bring to him that he probably hasn't already seen. But in the event that there are also Dr. George Birnbach as well, who I think he has like 10 clinics. He hasn't been practicing for 40 plus years, but he also has that experience as well.
Do you think it would be ironic if someone wrote a book but never read a book?
Not at all. I just told this quote to someone yesterday. And in my staff, it was our social media content person. I was telling her, I was like, those that can't read, write. So,
fuck, that's so true. I was really good at writing. I always got 3s and 4s. I never got anything below a 3.
I'm a great writer. I think a lot of introverts are actually really good writers.
Because I have pretty good. I feel like
in your mind.
I feel like I have above average grammar. I'm pretty good at separate. Like it hurts me. And it pisses me off when people don't know how to use there correctly. Like the wrong there, like THEIR or THERE or THEY apostrophe RE. Like that shit pisses me off. So maybe I am a writer.
So the reason I asked you earlier if you felt like there was a gap in the industry with chiropractors and coming out of school and like the business aspect was essentially to ask you, like, do you see value in maybe creating a business on its own of like that transition phase and kind of like bridging the gap and like basically jump starting these people out of school into their own practices? Like, do you see that potentially as its own business one day?
Yeah. So it kind of happens. Like you have different associations that will help you kind of model. I've talked about my mentor before. He follows a model. It's called the 5-star model, and it basically helps you, I guess, bridge that gap, but without the financial part being the sole focus. The sole focus is of course, your goal long term, right? Which is hopefully treating and making America healthy. Hopefully that's your goal, right?
Yeah.
And so you do have that. Is you have to find them. Like they don't just come to you, but also you have to be willing as a business owner. You have to be willing to take your business owner hat off and allow yourself to be coachable. And for doctors, that's a big thing because we have that ego, right?
Yeah.
I'm a doctor. And so it's like, I'm a doctor. Who are you to tell me
I know this.
how to do my thing,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to be willing to do that. I'll never forget. I remember I had a patient come up, and this patient, I've known him for a while. He knew me before I was Dr. Alex or Dr. Williams.
Dr.
And
Rockett.
he called me Alex, and he was like, "Does that offend you?" And I was like, I have colleagues who that would offend, but for me, it's like, no,
Yeah.
because you have to be able to take that hat off and be a person too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's something that adds to that gap that you're talking about.
I think you're also not an ego-driven person as well,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
that's where that comes
Correct.
from.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest business mistake?
Biggest business mistake would be
Doesn't have to be financial. Could also be like, just like, I mean, most of it's tied to financial, but it could
Right.
just be like
Or to
merit.
reword it, like
it could be
biggest,
merit.
biggest learning moment.
Yeah, or like
I think
yeah.
biggest learning moment for me is knowing when to say no.
Yeah, so give us
think-
a scenario.
I think Daniel, that's how Daniel is. He wants to say yes to everybody.
Yeah.
All the time.
So okay, so when Ignite first got started, we actually got started in a gym, and again, great opportunity, great blessing. We're
Yeah.
actually still at that gym.
It's a hidden gym in Dallas. I don't know if you've been to Hidden Gym or heard of it.
Oh, I heard it's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's a big gym, right?
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
nice.
Yeah.
And so while we were getting started at that gym, I had another gym owner approach me for a business opportunity. And in my mind, I'm like I said, I'm always looking for opportunities to grow.
Same.
And
Yeah.
so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, cool, let's get over there. Let's see how we can make this work. That was my mindset. How can we make this work? How can we make this work? And instead of how can we make this work, I've learned that the mindset has to shift to not only can we make it work, but does this make sense? And at that time, it didn't make sense. But in my mind, I was thinking, how can we make this work? How can we make this work until we couldn't make it work, And it's just battling the two because if you're always looking to grow, that's great. But you have to grow with the opportunities that make sense for your business as well. And that was probably the biggest. I was within the first year or so of Ignite really going.
So learning when to essentially say no or say, okay, this maybe isn't the best route.
Like
Correct.
not everything is an opportunity. Sometimes it's a distraction.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
What is your ultimate goal with whether it's Ignite or Be Well? Like, how many clinics do you want to open one day, or like, what is your ultimate vision
Man,
for
so
that?
it's gonna sound super simplistic. My ultimate goal, which I don't have a number as far as clinics go. For me, I want my life to not necessarily be, separate in the sense of you have work and then you have home and then you have family. Growing up the youngest out of 5, my parents worked, to provide for us. They did a heck of a job, providing for all 5 of us, or I guess 7 when you include them as well. My ultimate goal, though, is to not have to work as much when I start having kids. The goal is to always,
It's never gonna happen. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that.
Well, in the sense of not necessarily not working so much, but in the sense of I want to be there.
Yeah.
I want to have the option or the choice to be there. So for me, growing up, like I said, my parents did a heck of a job, but because there were so many of us and they had to provide, they spent a lot of their times working, which means my siblings raised me, or my siblings had to look out for me a lot of the times. And there's no problem. I love my siblings, love my parents. There's no problems with that. But if there was one thing that I can change for my kids is the opportunity to be there more.
Same. Yeah. How many people do you think you have treated in these past 4 years?
Oh, man. It's funny because I used to try to keep track.
Yeah.
And for the longest, I kept track. But the clinic that I was an associate at was a pretty big clinic. And so I've probably seen 100 people a week there.
Wow. Wow. 100 different people a week.
Yeah, 100 people, not 100 visits.
crazy.
100 people.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but I learned my limits as well being there. And
yeah.
so now being branched out on my own, I know how many people I can see before I start to feel like crap. Or I know how many people I will see before quality starts to decrease, that's huge. And I didn't know that back then, but now I know that's a big thing, right? Because you're providing a service. And so you can't, imagine going to a doc and they're so fatigued that they miss a diagnosis, right? That's a huge deal, right? And so I kind of stopped tracking how many people I was treating and just more or less focused on the quality of service that I was giving.
Yeah.
So
Damn, you need to open one in Houston so I can be a client. For real. Like, for real. I think that'd be huge.
We need to open one without.
I'll be a partner. I'll be a partner.
What would so for any student that may be listening that's in chiropractic school or whatever, what would your biggest piece of advice be to them, whether they want to open a clinic or like what would you say the number one piece of advice you would have for them?
Go shadow the clinics in your community. Go shadow the clinics in your community. Go shadow the clinics that practice the type or the way that you see yourself practicing. I say both because I did neither, and I wish I did. If you would have asked me in school if I was to have would I have a personal injury practice, I would have told you, heck no, I hate paperwork, But here we are now. Like I said, the first one that we bred, it was personal injury.
Yeah.
But it was because I didn't know what I didn't know back then.
Yeah.
And then on this side of it, now we do know what we
Oh, you got that insurance work.
I was gonna ask that. Like, what is the biggest challenge with the clinic? Is dealing with insurance like a big challenge, or is it kind of tedious?
The reason why insurance is a challenge is because it's a separate language. Once you learn the language, it becomes a little better for you. And that's with anything, right? That's with any business. That's with language.
Learning.
Yeah, that's with language itself, right? But it's not the quote unquote fun thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not the sports injury.
Yeah.
Correction therapy that everybody wants to do. It's the person who's just trying to learn how to walk again.
Speaking of insurance, fun fact, I actually found out a few weeks ago that hospitals actually operate at a loss because of insurance payments.
Yeah.
Because it's the most, that's why when you pay through insurance versus cash payment, it's like a fifth of the price.
Yeah.
Because with insurance, hospitals will, let's just say, because we just had a delivery, right? I just had a kid. We got the insurance payment back. Cash payment normally for delivery would be about like $5,500, including epidural. This bill that they billed to insurance was $26,000, but it shows that they got $7,000.
You ready for this?
Good.
That's not just hospitals. That's all.
Yeah, I feel like if you have to do, except the automotive industry, they make a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
I know because I have a business that deals with that. But, hospitals operated. I think Methodist operated at like a negative.
So
like
you
$1 billion.
You personally, or your clinic, you prefer
Cash.
no insurance payment.
So I was actually waiting for one of you guys to ask me this.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah.
So the reason why Be Well and Ignite is separate is for that exact reason. So Ignite is cash based.
Okay.
And Be Well is solely insurance based.
Gotcha.
And the reason being is because in the state of Texas, you can't, as a medical professional, you can't charge two separate prices. So if I charge wellness people what I charge PI people, I would have nobody come. But if I didn't charge what I charge for PIs, I wouldn't see any profit.
You wouldn't have a business, yeah.
Correct.
So which one is more profitable for you?
Ignite's more profitable.
That's the insurance?
It's straight cash.
That's the cash one.
based.
Yeah.
Cash
See,
based.
that's yeah. And
But
then-
it's because of your point. Like if I say, for example, I'll just throw a random number out. But if I say, for example, to a PI patient, they came and saw me 100 times, and each visit was $10. That insurance company may only pay me $3 on that $10.
Yeah.
You know?
They said they operated at a gross of 5% or 6%,
And the reason,
and not including payroll.
the reason being, and I kind of see again going back to the business owner side, you kind of understand both sides of it, or at least I do. But for me, like it's how do you say the pushback for doctors is like, okay, if this person comes to me and I diagnose them with this, how can you say every person should be healed by this point?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But then at the same time, you have those not
Correct.
being a doctor is just like any other profession. You're gonna have good ones, you're gonna have not so good ones.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, how do you stop those
Bad
not so
apples.
good ones? Yeah, how do you stop the not so good ones from saying,
Yeah.
this person has this diagnosis and we've been treating it for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, and
I mean,
so-
that's like with everything. It's like when you're buying clothing
Yeah.
and there's like 1,000 5-star reviews, and then there's that one 0 review, and that's the one you look at because that's the bad apple that makes everything bad.
correct.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So looking back, like on everything, like your whole career that led you to this moment, like what is there anything you would change?
No, because I think if you
Like what do you, okay, so maybe if not change, but what do you think you could have done better?
I think, I guess in the professional sense, I wish I would have spent more time, like not even just taking classes, but I wish I would have spent more time like conversing with like my peers or even my good friends, because I
Yeah.
have 4 friends that have business majors, right? And I had no business sense.
Yeah.
And so I wish I would have taken the time to converse with them at a younger age, more about things that matter, like
Yeah.
this, like even being in this, type of environment versus, just the college athlete life that we live.
I felt the
right?
same after our conversation, our podcast we did with JC. I was like, man, I had no idea you were doing a lot of the things that you were doing. And he's always been like that kind of person for me. Is like, I always ask him about those types of things, but I definitely agree. Just like exposing yourself, and this even being, partners with Daniel, he's his mentors and the people that we've met through him. Like we're exposed to those types of people that just, you learn so much more about, even with the people that we're in talks with right now for an investment, like they have been that also another kind of mentor person for us. Just like you said, it's like you learn these little things that you're like, man, if we would have done that maybe 2 months ago or whatever down the road, it's just. But I think that's what life is about, right? It's like you're continuously learning new things, growing as an individual, and and
it's like if you
sprouting whatever comes from that.
If you go back and change, you almost like an episode of The Flash, right? If you go back and change,
Yeah, it changes everything.
change the continuum, right? And so it's like, will you be at that same spot?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Who knows? Yeah. I think we can cross the finish line there. What do you say? Well,
hopefully no more trivia.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna end it with 5 more. No. Well, Dr. Rockett, we appreciate you, hopping on this episode with us.
Of course.
Helping our audience grow their knowledge in the world of business, more specifically chiropractic. Hopefully, if there are some, chiropractic students listening to this, they could take a little bit of knowledge of what you've provided today and apply that to their future. And that's always our goal with this podcast is, at least help one person in a way or another, or just provide flat out entertainment. So
yeah, maybe I'll write a book too.
Book.
Yeah. Thank you to our
picture book.
Yeah, for real.
Write a book and stop sitting with your legs crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. That'll be the title of the book. Stop sitting with your legs crossed. Thank you to the listeners at home for tuning in. Together, we will sprint towards a purpose-driven future, celebrating the power of business, entrepreneurship, and the transformative impact that it can create.
JC told me that successful men sit like this, so that's why I sit like this.
Success. That's why a lot of successful men got fucking back problems. Those are the people he be treating, bro.